This is how I found out that you were located in Alabama. The little they were like micro machines.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah, the Texaco station, and
Yeah,
then the DeLorean with the police car and everything from
yep,
part two.
yep.
I ordered those from your website probably 20 years ago,
Wow, wow.
and the box came, and I remember it like it was nobody's business. The box came. It was a priority mailbox, and I looked down when I was opening it, and the address was Alabama. And I'm like, what in the world?
Yeah.
And I think that's when I finally reached out to you over email, and that's how you and I connected,
Okay. Yeah.
and we've been going strong ever since.
Absolutely.
How in the world uh, does an on well? Let's talk about the merchandise with licensing. That's what you handle for the franchise, right? The licensing.
Well, I carry only officially licensed products, and so
Okay.
there's a lot of counterfeit things out there in terms of T-shirts. I won't mention anybody's name. Well, there's a lot of things on, Etsy, and there's a lot of things that's unlicensed, and so I made a very good reputation for myself right out of the gate, stating that I was only going to deal with officially licensed collectibles, and that has worked really well for me with not only Bob and the film and but the studios. The studios appreciate that they don't have BackToTheFuture.com out here peddling unofficial merchandise, and so.
Do I need to blur out just a shirt?
No.
I don't know what you're talking about.
It's official, unofficial.
The merchandise really came about when I was running the newsletter, because I would use the newsletter as a means. I had like a classified section in the back of it. And I kind of started it out as a means for me to find some of the things I was looking for. So, like, I remember going to the video stores in 89 and 90 when I guess it was 90, when the Back to the Future 2 and 3 ultimately came out. I remember these promotional clocks from part 2 and these different things, these banners that you could get. And none of the video stores in Alabama would sell any of that stuff to me. So I knew that there was a pinball machine that had been released by Data East.
Yep.
And they had come out with that after the third film, and so I was looking for some of these things. Where can I find? Again, this was pre-internet. I was looking for a pinball machine and these promo clocks, so I would use that classified section, and it kind of caught on. A lot of other people say, "Hey, I'm looking for these things too, and I'm also looking for micro machines. I'm looking for these." And I go, "Oh, I know where to get those from." And so I would start buying these novelizations, the cars, different toys, and I started trading with people, and that kind of started growing into a really busy time for me to find stuff. And I just kind of offered this search service of finding things for a nominal fee. I wasn't trying to make any money off of it. But then it really started coming out where I was trying to carry things like the movies on VHS and Laserdisc and DVDs and things like that. And I started having to get tax numbers, and I had to start getting wholesale accounts, and and I didn't know how to do any of that. I was just a super fan that was just kind of doing this stuff off of the side, and I started finding my way into the world of merchandising. And the really big thing that I started the very first piece that I worked on that was an officially licensed collectible. Anybody have the 1/18 scale DeLorean from Sunstar America?
I think I got it from you.
Probably did. So Sunstar came out with these 20 years ago. It really was 20 years ago when I did a big show with Tom and the very first show I did with the Hollers down in Orlando for the FX show. and the Sunstar had just come out with these cars, and I had gotten a wholesale account with them. Well, I actually worked with them early 2001. They had kind of come out with a prototype, and I actually have their original prototype here that they had built up, and I kind of authenticated. And so they had this massive Mr. Fusion pipe on the back end of it, and go, that is completely wrong. And so I show them, what the colors were supposed to be, and what the Mr. Fusion was supposed to look like. And so they took pictures of the car at Universal, sent them to me, and they actually did an early run with that massive pipe on the back of it, but then came out with another version just a few months later. And I wrote the description on the back of the box, helped them do some of the graphics, so that was kind of my jumping off place of getting into the merchandise. And so I worked with another company called Welly that came out with 1/24 scale DeLoreans, all three of them. And those are still around today. Every once in a while, I'll walk into a shop like in Gatlinburg or something and go, there's the part 3. I worked on that. I wrote the box. I wrote the packaging for there. That's it.
Yep.
That's it. So I wrote is that the Welly? Yep.
Yes, sir. Yes, it is.
So, yeah. So I wrote the I wrote the copyright on the back of those, and I've got a graphics guy that lives in Arizona that I've worked with for 20 years. His name is Tony Acosta, and we've done a lot of packaging for officially licensed products over the years. And he did a comic book cover for IDW for me. That I did an exclusive cover when the comics came out in 2015, and so Tony and I have worked on a lot of officially licensed products over the years, and he's done a lot of wonderful graphics work, not only for that, but he's also done a lot of stuff for my website too. So he's very, very good. He's one of the best out there, and I've referred him to a lot of different companies and people over the years, and I know he's done some stuff for the DeLorean Motor Company. He's a big DeLorean fan as well. And so, but anyway, that's how I got started in the merchandise, and it's just mushroomed from there. And I've done a lot of authentication with different companies. I mentioned Lego earlier. I've worked with Mattel on some things, and worked with Dr. Collector is one of the ones I've most recently worked with. They're in Spain, and they came out with this really great prop kit that came out about a year and a half ago that I worked on, and it's called the Time Travel Memories Kit, and it's got all.
You got that, don't you, Rock?
Yeah, I ordered it from Steve, so I could get the Biff's Casino.
Yes.
Chips and the
I don't have the green ones here, but I've got some of the red ones that came out of the inside of it.
Yeah.
And so I worked with them for almost 2 years on that. One of the great things that they were very adamant that they wanted to put in there was the lenticular photo of Marty and his siblings. And so they came to me. And one of the things that I since I've got connections with a lot of the cast and a lot of the crew, Universal does not own likeness rights for any of the cast. And so they never have. There's never been anything official that comes up from Universal where they license an actor's likeness rights. They never did it. There was not a lot of merchandise back in the 80s when the films came out. So they have just never done that. So anytime a licensee says, "Hey, I want to do a lunchbox with with Marty McFly on it," they go, "Well, okay, but you're going to be responsible for getting Michael's approval. You've got to go to Michael, and you've got to do." And they don't give any guidance on how to do that.
Yeah.
And a lot of those things just kind of fall away because Universal doesn't do it. They don't get involved, and so occasionally somebody will find out about me, and so. Dr. Collector was one of those that came to me and said, "Can you help us get in touch with the actors that are on this photograph?" And I said, "Well, yes and no." Wendy Jo Sperber, who played Linda McFly, unfortunately passed away in 2005 from breast cancer. and it had been a number of years since I had been in touch with anybody in her family or at her foundation. She's got a foundation that it's a cancer support center in I think Sherman Oaks, California, that she founded, and it's still going today. And but also Mark McClure who played Dave McFly. He was also Jimmy Olsen in the Superman movies, the Christopher Reeve movies. And so I know Mark, and so they had already reached out to Michael through his foundation and had been put in touch with the right people. So they had already done their homework with Michael, but they didn't have a way to get in touch with the other two. And so again, me and my persistence, I started out, I knew Mark and went to Mark and was able to get Mark in touch with them, and they were able to, come up to an agreement for licensing his likeness for that photo. Wendy Jo Sperber was a little bit more of a challenge. Fortunately, her mom was still alive, and I reached out through the foundation and got in touch with actually Nancy Allen, who is an actress that has done a lot of movies with Wendy Jo. She was in a lot of 80s movies. She was in RoboCop, and she's just a really sweet lady. She actually called me, and she actually runs the foundation.
Oh, okay.
Really close friends, and so I asked her, I said, who do I need to talk to Wendy Jo's kids? She said, no, you actually need to talk to her mother, and I'll put you in touch with her. But here's the deal. Mrs. Sperber does not do email. She does not do text messages. She does not do emails. She only does business by fax. Wow. And the guys that she needed to talk to were in Spain. Well, they could not fax her, and she could not fax them. So she would send me a fax. I would convert it into a PDF and email it to them, and they would send me a reply, and then I would fax it back to her. And, we did that for a number of months until she was satisfied, and that worked out. And it was very gratifying to be able to talk to Wendy Jo's mom. I had met Wendy Jo in person one time at the DVD launch in 2002, a few years before she passed away, but we had been emailing and calling over the years. But so that was one of those things that was just really gratifying to be able to get that piece in there just for Wendy Jo Sperber's memory.
Yeah.
And so, and working with them, as they also asked me, well, tell us some other things. What has never been created as a movie prop? And I had to think about, I've had a few movie props over the years, and some of them would be kind of complicated to replicate in a kit, and make it affordable to produce. And I had to really think. And just one day we were talking by LinkedIn, because how I really connect with them communicating is through LinkedIn Messenger. And I said, one thing that's just occurred to me is they've never come out with the keys to the DeLorean. That's a really cool thing. I think they would, and they go, oh yeah, that's a great idea. That we could produce that. And so within a few weeks, they had come up with a concept, and then they create this little DeLorean key set with a real DeLorean key. It's kind of shining on the screen, but I've got somewhere. Yeah, there's the key. Sorry, I've got things lying around everywhere.
I was gonna say, I love it. Everything's just there.
And so, but it has like the little address piece that has Doc Brown's writing on it with his address that you actually see in the movie. In the movie, Marty does not actually hold a true DeLorean key. It's just some random keys that are on a keychain. But but that was a lot of fun to put together, and to see just an idea that I had actually become a real piece of official memorabilia, and it's sold all over the world. And so that's quite gratifying.
Oh.
Yeah, I was happy to get that in that Dr. Collector box.
Oh yeah. I bundled that in the first batch with those just to kind of put that in there as an exclusive. And I had gotten through them since I worked on it and created it, I came up with the concept. They allowed me to get them before anybody else, and so I bundled them with like the first 500 of those kits.
Mhm.
And
Ooh, I was in the first 500.
yeah, so that was a lot of fun. So to me, it's one of those things. As a fan, the last thing I like seeing is something that was just slapped together, just something that was just has the Back to the Future name on it. It's just put out there with not a lot of thought, and fans go, "That's junk. Who would buy that?" And so where I've come in is be able to connect people. I'm just in the middle. The manufacturers, the licensees
Mhm.
need to talk to somebody at Michael's Foundation or a particular actor or whatever the case may be, or they say, "Hey, we're having problems finding photographs of somebody's costume."
Mhm.
I've got quite an archive
Yeah.
of high resolution photography from all three films that I have.
You don't say.
So just curious because
I end up with a lot of these 35 millimeter slides that I've bought over.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
And so I've got a number of those, and a lot of those have ended up on packaging for
Okay.
memorabilia.
So just kind of curious because it's been a recent wave of the NECA lines, the
Yes,
the
yes.
figures. Did any communications that goes on with them on that?
I have talked with NECA. I'd say that I've got like my pinky toe in the door with them.
Yeah.
So just a few weeks ago,
I just love it. He just reaches there. It's there.
yeah,
The pit bull.
Griffin just came out as an exclusive.
Mhm.
Mhm.
This was an example of where I had been talking with one of their VPs, and he said, "We're having a hard time finding good photographs of Griff's pants."
Yeah.
I've got photos of Griff's pants, and so they were, they allowed me to do an early reveal back before it was just a prototype. It was not
Mhm.
painted or anything, and so I got to tweet that out on the official Twitter
Yeah.
account to show everybody that was coming. And so it's a lot of fun. For me, again, it's the last thing I like to see is something come out and everybody's really excited about it, and then, oh no, something's wrong on it.
Right.
Somebody
Mhm.
misspelled a word, or they put the wrong color on it, or
Yeah.
it should have had lenticular color material on here, and it's just a sticker, or whatever the case may be.
Mhm.
So that's just been one of those things that I get involved. If they'll have me, a lot of
Right.
companies say, "Nah, we've got it covered. We don't need
Yeah.
you."
What
And
about
so
the Hot Toys as well? Because Brock's got.
I have not really worked with Hot Toys.
Mhm.
I've talked with them. They're based in Hong Kong, and Hot Toys really doesn't need my help. They're doing really good for themselves, and so their accuracy are really spot on. I mean, I know there's a lot of people that will buy them and they'll still customize them and make some changes on some LEDs and some other things, but
Yeah.
I just don't get into. I get into the nuts and bolts, but I don't get down into the weeds that far that I'm going to say, well, there's one little LED that should be, a fraction of a color brighter. I just don't
Yeah.
get into the weeds that far.
I would not customize a hot toy if you paid me
Yeah.
because those
Oh,
things are way too expensive.
They're expensive enough.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do carry their products, but I've not worked with them as a company in terms to this level.
Yeah, thanks for because I know we've got a lot of all of our friends and lot that listen to the podcast really into the NECA and the Hot Toys
Oh, yeah,
collectibles too.
yeah.
So that's really interesting to know and to find out. Yeah.
I met the folks at NECA by going to the New York Toy Fair 2 years ago, right before COVID hit.
Okay.
And that was for the 35th anniversary, and I went two reasons. My wife went along with me for the first time, and she's a huge Billy Joel fan. So
Yes.
I knew I could convince her to come along with me to New York and go to Toy Fair if I would get her tickets to see Billy Joel. So he was performing at Madison Square Garden just right down the road.
Oh,
So
awesome.
we went to see him for I think like the 6th or 7th time, and
Yeah.
that was the very last show he did until like a month or two ago. We saw the very last one that he did for 2 years.
Oh, good.
But
yeah.
yeah, so I went there. I got to meet with all the reps from Playmobil, NECA, Jada, Funko, just a lot of the different companies were there, and so I got to introduce myself to a lot of them. They'd never heard of the website, didn't know who I was, and so
Yeah.
I did work with Playmobil on some real small things. Again, Playmobil knows what they're doing. They
Right.
were already knocking it out of the park, so they really didn't
Mhm.
need my help on anything. But you know, anytime that there's one out there and they're looking for somebody just to authenticate a prototype or something, I always raise my hand. I'm always eager.
Yeah.
But again, the last thing I want is something to come out and not tarnish the franchise, but you just want something to represent
Yeah.
Back to the Future in the fullest capacity it can represent. And so
It's just having that love for the franchise that
yeah,
we do,
yeah, it really
and
is.
you
It
want
really
you want the others that have that same love to get the best out of what they're getting. Yeah.
So I enjoy it. It keeps me busy. Like I said, I've been doing it 30 years now, and don't know where the end game is, but I still have a lot of fun doing it.